And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, December 23rd. And there are only 367 shopping days until Christmas 2011. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here are some of the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Native Hawaiian leaders plan to start forming their own new but unrecognized government following the failure of federal legislation to do so. Office of Hawaiian Affairs Trustee Hunani Apolana on December 21st called for the state-funded agency to sign people up to enroll as participants in the formation of a future Hawaiian government. A previous effort gathered 108,000 signatures of people showing interest in a Hawaiian governing entity, but this new process will go a step further by creating the structure of the Hawaiian government. Eventually, Congress will be asked to recognize the Hawaiian government, granting it a degree of sovereignty to create its own laws and manage its own resources. Native Hawaiians are the last remaining indigenous people in the United States that have not been allowed to establish their own government entity, a right already extended to Alaska Natives and Native American tribes. The Bay Mills Indian community says it's prepared to defend itself in a federal court against lawsuits seeking to close down its casino in Michigan's northern Lower Peninsula. Tribal Chairman Jeff Parker says in a statement yesterday the tribe is confident in its legal position for the casino it opened in November in Vanderbilt, Michigan. The Little Traverse Band of Odawa Indians filed suit to try to force the closing of the casino with roughly 40 slot machines. The Michigan Attorney General's office sued December 21st in an effort to shut down the casino as well. The federal government has granted a disaster declaration for flood recovery efforts on a tribal reservation deep in the gorge off the Grand Canyon. The October flooding on the Havasupai reservation forced the evacuation of 143 tourist and damaged bridges, campgrounds, trails that are all vital to the tribe's tourism business. The damage assessment came in at $1.6 million. Repairs to homes, businesses, and private roads are not eligible under the Public Assistance Program. Governor Jan Brewer says the declaration is the first for the state with a sovereign tribal nation as the sole applicant. Yesterday, Menominee Indian High School students held a commemorative march honoring Menominee Restoration Day. On December 22, 1973, President Richard Nixon signed the Menominee Restoration Act, which Congress passed to reinstate federal recognition and the benefits to the Menominee Nation and ending the devastating period of termination that caused the tribe to sell off some of their lands and lose jurisdiction over many of their resources. The march also was in commemoration of the Menominee March for Justice, when Menominee people marched 220 miles to Madison, Wisconsin from the reservation in October of 1971. A lawmaker has drafted legislation to repeal a new state law aimed at eliminating Indian mascots and other race-based team names and logos in Wisconsin public schools. The law restricts residents to file complaints with the school board over the use of offensive nicknames, logos, or mascots. The state school superintendent can then order districts to stop using them. The proposed bill by State Representative Steve Nass, Republican of Whitewater, also aims to void all orders already issued by the state superintendent of education. Barbara Munson of the Wisconsin Indian Education Association tells the Wisconsin State Journal that Nash should try to eliminate stereotypes, not encourage them. Nass's spokesman, Mike Mickelson, called Munson an extremist. A federal judge has given preliminary approval to a $3.4 billion settlement for Native Americans who say the government mismanaged their land, royalties, and all that, paving the way to begin a search for hundreds of thousands of potential beneficiaries. U.S. District Judge Thomas Hogan of Washington, D.C. Made his decision December 21st and ordered the formal beneficiary notification period to begin in 30 days or around January 20th. Congress approved the class action settlement earlier this month after nearly 15 years of litigation over the royalties from property owned by Indians and held in trust by the federal government. Attorneys for the lawsuit's lead plaintiff, Eloise Cobell of Browning, Montana, say the number of potential beneficiaries could reach 600,000, but the government has correct names and addresses for only half that number, according to the plaintiffs. And don't forget that we plan to be broadcasting live the Menominee Nation New Year's Eve powwow from Kashina, Wisconsin, beginning at 1 p.m. with a dinner break hand drum presentation or contest, and then a second grand entry at 7 p.m. that evening directly from live Kashina, Wisconsin. And joining in sometime that evening as the crowd gathers, should be the LCO New Year's Eve gathering at the LCO High School on the Lakudere Ojibwe Reservation in northern Wisconsin. And we'll try to mix and match those events so that people can send their New Year's greetings throughout cyber world right here on IndianCountryTV.com. And so join us on December 31st for those live broadcasts. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. Come back and join us again soon. Be Gwetch.